So this is the starting of a new vlog. I started to do Johanna Lindsey, her beginner novels. Now, the first book I ended up reading, or trying to read, I ended up DNFing it, and it had a lot of like, it was Captive Bride by her. It had a lot of things in there that I found annoying. I said the first two was the hero and heroine just seemed very immature to me. Like they came off as like very, very immature, and it just annoyed me, the characters. So I was like, that was just the first thing I noticed, is that both of the characters, the man, the heroine and the hero, were both like, just, you know, rubbed me the wrong way. And then like he kidnaps her and like the first time, people will say, like, people may go and say it's grape. To me, I'm like, it's definitely more of like consensual non-consent, you know, like there was different things in the way like he would go about it and she would go about it, and to me I was like, it's definitely more in the line of like consensual non-consent. And I wasn't really digging it. Like I said, especially when it comes to the whole like like when it comes to like 70s books that are in the 70s. This was like 2 years before I was born, so this came out in like 77. So what was like around that time, like to think about like why this was done in a way it was, you know, like you have these publication companies that would go and basically kind of push these authors to like to try to sensationalize these novels and to make it to where it's they're more of like a soap opera kind of thing. Because remember, like soap operas back in the day were very sensationalized, you know. And so like if anybody remembers, I think it was like General Hospital or something. If anybody remembers, like maybe like if you're too young for soap operas, maybe your mother or grandmother like would watch soap operas. There was these characters that were Luke and Laura. Everyone praised like, oh, they got married and everything, but when you look at the backstory of Luke and Laura, he raped her, he sexually assaulted her. That was the starting of the relationship, and I'm just like, oh my god. So this one here, I'd say, is definitely like sensationalized, and so I'm just like, I couldn't like get past like chapter 5, and so I basically skimmed the rest of the book just to see what happened, and I'm just like, oh wow, this is a lot. So yeah, I wasn't digging it, but I understand like for that time that, you know, these types of novels were like more sensationalized. They wanted to kind of like get people to continue to read them and all that stuff. So there's that. And then the second book, I don't know, I would kind of push it as more, it seemed more grapey to me, you know, like it seemed more of a sexual assault in the next book that I ended up reading, which was Pirate's Love. I skimmed, and there was a scene in there where the one woman who was basically like the heroine's maid, or her like, she was like her like the woman who was kind of like looking out for her, you know. And to me it was like, she was like, why don't you just give in? And it's like, so this woman should just give in and can let this guy continue to, you know, sexually assault her, you know, and like for her to just, you know, give up and be like, okay, you know, he could do what he wants kind of thing. Whew. So yeah, that one there, I was like, oh, I'm not digging this. So I am delving into like one more standalone novel in, like, I was trying to do all her standalones first. And so I'm gonna go into Paradise Wild, but I got a feeling I'm not gonna like that one either. So the next step in this vlog, for it to be any kind of entertaining for me, I'm gonna delve into the one, I think it might be her most popular series. I think it's the Mallory Anderson series or something like that. I'm gonna delve into a few books in that series and see if it's, you know, something I want to continue on with it. I think because it's a little farther, you know, in her, like, it was a longer series, you know, so I'm gonna try with the first book that went out in like came out in like the 80s. I think it was the mid 80s it came out. So I'm thinking like her writing might be a little bit different at that time, because, you know, as authors like age and mature in their writing can be very different, you know. So like Lisa Kleypas back in the day, like there are books out there she doesn't want them released because they're ones that she is obviously not proud of. She doesn't want to release those. So I'm like, okay, fine. She doesn't want to release them. So there's people out there who own copies of these books that are no longer in print. So it could be the same thing with these Johanna and Lindsey ones, where there might be ones that maybe her earlier books that she's not really proud of. So that's why for me, I'm like, well, I'm going to delve into the Mallory series. And then plus also that series is on Audible. So I figured I would get into that series and get through it and see if it's any good or not, you know. If that series is like, you know, the one that was her most popular, I think, right there, if that one there fails to impress me, then I'm obviously not a fan of like Johanna and Lindsey. So I'm gonna go and delve into the first book in that series. I can't remember the name of it. I'll have to put it like right here if I can, you know, do it. But I have the original. Some books I have the original copies, you know, like the first editions, and then there's other ones that I wasn't able to get the first editions of them. So I got like I got ones with like step backs, or I got like a different edition. I was just like, some of them are just way too expensive. Like trying to find, I think it's Gentle Rogue, trying to find Gentle Rogue, the first edition, it's like a needle in a haystack. And if you do find it, people want to jack up the price. So I have the re-release of that one there. That was the Max Market, the one that was a little bit bigger and wider. I ended up picking up that one, and that one has, the cover is a very similar, I think it's a very similar cover or step back. They kind of took it from something else. I think it might have been another author's step back. They used the same artist, but they changed the hair color of the art. You know, they changed the hair color. I think that the original was like a blonde, and they made this one like a brunette. So I was like, that was kind of weird. But I'm gonna delve into those books and see if they're any good, because they're her beginner books. I'm like, oh man, they're problematic. And I would say if there's any ladies out there that if you like modern historicals, you definitely would not like those early Johanna and Lindsey's. You would not like them. You know, like besides, like I said, besides the whole like grape scenes, besides that, you know, like I said, it's like some of it's like consensual, non-consent kind of thing. Besides that, there is just like the whole, like the way the characters act is very like sensationalized, you know. So yeah, I'm gonna delve into those and go from there. So I would say when I get through with that first book, I'll come back with an update, tell you what I think about it. And I figured, you know, with it being an audiobook, it's gonna be easier for me to get through, and go from there. But yeah, that's it for now. I will update you all later. Okay, so update. I finished this book here. I wasn't sure I was gonna like it. I give it about a 3.5, because I would say for most of the book, the hero irritated the fuck out of me. I liked the heroine. She had a really good backbone. She was very strong-willed. I liked her. But him, not so much. So give it about a 3.5. So basically it's Regina and Nicholas. So Nicholas attempts to kidnap his mistress as a game, like, because she's telling him, like, you know, we shouldn't be together anymore. She'll find like another suitor. So he thinks like he can like kidnap his mistress and kind of like bring her back to him. when he goes to the ball and realizes that he mistakenly kidnapped someone else because he sees his mistress dancing at the ball. So he goes home and sees who he kidnaps. When he opens the door, he is mesmerized by the young lady's beauty. He realizes that he accidentally kidnapped his friend's niece. Now, this is a part of the Mallory clan, a Mallory Anderson clan. She has a whole bunch of like cousins and uncles and things like that are like, you know, obviously trying to protect her. They're a bit of like an eccentric crowd, you know. And so he realizes that he accidentally kidnapped his friend's niece. He kisses her before he brings her back, but she lets her family know that she wants to marry him. He doesn't want her to marry him because he's a bastard. You know, he's a byblow. His father claimed him because they made it look like the stepmother gave birth to him. So his father has since passed away, and he fears that his stepmother will let it slip that he isn't really her child, so he doesn't want a wife with any kind of status to deal with the societal shunning. His stepmom is a bitch. I mean, I can understand. I can totally understand where she's coming from, but it's like you don't take it out on an innocent child, you know, because the father decided to slip out because she was having trouble carrying babies to term. She kept having miscarriages, and so the husband really wanted a child, and so he ended up having an affair, and it resulted in him. So Nicholas proceeds to ignore her and make it look like he is having affairs with other women, but in the meantime he has bedded Regina and she ends up becoming pregnant. She still wants to marry Nicholas, and once they are married, he ditches her to his estate and takes off. And I'm like, you're an asshole, dude. He doesn't at that time, he doesn't realize that she's pregnant. She's like 4 months along, you know, at that point. And she wasn't showing. Like, it depends on every woman. Not every woman shows at 4 months. You know, some women, you know, you could definitely see like, you know, they're increasing, you know, they're pregnant. And then there's others not so much. So it all depends on like how you're, you know, carrying a child, you know. So he's gone for 6 months when he gets forced back by her cousins. Then Nicholas finds out he has a son, and she's moved away from his estate. She's living somewhere else. He finds her and doesn't believe that the child is his, of course, because he's a fucking asshole. He finally warms to the child Thomas and believes that he is, you know, that's his son. And he forces his wife back to his estate, and his stepmother invites Nicholas's former mistresses to like this, you know, whatever time they're to take in the country. That causes some conflict, and Nicholas has to show Regina that he is only devoted to her, like he only wants her, he doesn't want his mistresses. Finally, they start to have a marriage. Nicholas finds out who his real mother is, and he becomes a husband to Regina. So I enjoyed this ending, but for most of the book, the hero annoyed the fuck out of me. I loved the heroine. She was fun and had a backbone. She was the only one who was like, you know, pressing the issues for him. Like, otherwise, it's like, I think he would have stayed gone longer, you know, if it wasn't for like the cousins kind of forced him back, even though he said, well, I was going to come back. And I'm like, were you really, dude? Yeah, the guy was an asshole. He was a major dick. I was like, this guy's a fucking douchebag. It's like, you know, he goes and he kisses her, and then he goes and he like beds her while they're sort of engaged. You know, he beds her. And it wasn't bad. I mean, she wanted it too. So, I mean, at least with this one, it wasn't like grape, you know. So at least with this, it's like, it's not grape, you know, it's like, it's consensual. So, I mean, at least with this one, it's like, if you are not sure which Johanna Lindsey to kind of get into, I would say like, you probably want to start with the Mallorys because it's at least problematic. So I'd say you start with this one here, which obviously got recovered. This is like the original cover, like the first edition. And I'm not going to bother keeping it because I'm like, I liked it. Like, I liked at the end. That's why I said I gave it about a 3.5. I did enjoy the ending part of them kind of like fighting a little bit, you know, and him getting like his stick out of his ass. And you know, especially when he's like telling her like, oh, well, obviously, you know, I'm a bastard. And she's like, yeah, so what? She goes, I got a couple of cousins that are bastards too. Who cares? And he's like, you don't mind? And she goes, no, why would that bother me? And so it's like he finally like realizes that he fucked up and like damn, dude, you done fucked up. You know, yeah, he fucked up big time. But at least, you know, that got kind of over with. And so I'm like, okay, well, you know what? I don't mind this book. So I'll move on to like the other books in the Mallory series. So the next one in that series is Tender Rebel. So this is like the original cover for this one here too. So this one here has to do with a Scottish miss. So it says she was an exquisite Scottish heiress with an urgent need for the safety of marriage, her only protection from a villainous cousin and every other fortune hunting scoundrel who coveted her flamed hair beauty and her vast fortune. Yeah, of course. He was everything she'd been warned against, a ruthless, handsome English rogue whose brazenly sensual blue eyes spoke of pleasure beyond imagining. The other one there, Regina, she had like this beautiful blue eyes, so I think it might be like the whole heritage thing maybe. How she wished she dared to love such a man, to believe the whispered murmurings of his passionate promise, and to follow the enchanting dream. So this one might be the one cousin. I think it might be Anthony. There was one that was called Anthony, Tony. So it might be him. He might be the one that's in the story. I don't know. I have to look ahead. Does it say his name? There's Jeremy. And now there was a Jeremy, I think. Oh, Regina's in here too. There was a Jeremy in here. There was like a Jeremy and another person who were like pirates. And I think Jeremy was like an apprentice to a pirate or something like that. So he might have his story, like, because there was like a little bit of like piracy in here where, what's his name here? Nicholas ended up getting kidnapped by pirates for like a short time, but then he got released. So there was that. So I'm wondering if there's going to be more pirating stuff. I think so. There might be more pirating stuff like in the future of the books and stuff. So, so I started listening to this one here. So when I get done with this one, I'll let you know what I think about it. But yeah, I'm going to stick with this series here and see, because like I said, for the fact that this one here, I thought it was decent. It was decent. Like I said, it was the hero that annoyed the fuck out of me the most. So I'm going to go and probably donate that book. And then I'm going to move on to, I'm on first chapter right now. So you got that Scottish brogue, you know, where she's got a bit of a thick Scottish accent. So I'm going to go and get this one done. When this one's done, I'll move on to a third book, and then that'll be it for my vlog. If people want me to continue on with the Mallory series, let me know in the comment section. You want me to keep reading those books? I'll probably do like more books, you know, in the future. Maybe not next month, but the month after that, I can listen to more of Johanna, Lindsey, and go from there. But yeah, I'm gonna update you all later. Okay, update. So I finished this book here. So we have the characters of Rosalind and Anthony Mallory. So I gave this 4 stars. So it says the content warning is kidnapping, consensual non-consent, because the heroine was under the influence of alcohol, not the first sexual encounter, and then physical battery. So Rosalind travels to England from Scotland looking for a husband. She is now an heiress, and her cousin, who is suspected of killing her mother, wants to marry her so he can get her money. Her grandfather told her to flee before he passed away and to look for a rake, because they do make the best husbands. He said he was a former rake, you know, it's the kind of thing. And so she gets to England and is at a ball when she sneaks off away from young men and fortune hunters when she spots a man outside in the garden. She meets him, and he's Anthony Mallory, a known rake. He has no intentions of getting married, so she tries to talk with other men, but because he's attracted to her, he keeps pursuing her. So she almost gets kidnapped on the street, and she decides to go to a country party. There she sees the Mallory brothers, Anthony and James, and they both decide to pursue her at the same time. So Anthony gets her alone and kisses her, and then James gets her alone and kisses her too. He decides that Anthony clearly is more suited to her. So Anthony pretends to help her find a husband. He really wants her for himself, but he pretends to like, oh, okay, I'll look into these gentlemen for you. Said, then all of a sudden, Rosalind wakes up to Geordie, her cousin, who had kidnapped her. While he is gone, she jumps from the window and lands into a hay wagon. Once she gets home, she has to leave somewhere else so he doesn't find her again. She makes it over to Anthony's home to ask him for a man who she can marry, because he was supposed to be looking for, husbands for her. And she tells him why she must marry quickly, why, her cousin's pursuing her and all that stuff. So Anthony lies and tells her that none of the men she is interested in is suitable. So Anthony tells her that she can marry him instead. And so the next morning, after he took her virginity, he gets a special license so they can marry right away. Rosalind tells him that she wants a marriage of convenience and children, but she would rather he have mistresses so he doesn't secretly cheat on her. She would want to know that he is with other women and not give her heart away to a rake. You see, he's clearly upset by this because he stated that he would be faithful to his marriage vows. They get married and he doesn't read her marriage contract. He doesn't care what's in her marriage contract. So Anthony and James go out to search for Rosalind's cousin so he can let him know that she is married, and then he could stop pursuing her. They mistake another man for Geordie and accidentally start a fight in the pub. James gets his hands on a boy, and from the feel of this boy, he realizes that the young boy is actually a female. She manages to get away, including the other male. Anthony comes back home, and Rosalind sees that there is a blonde hair on his jacket, and she blames him of cheating, or I say accuses him of cheating. And a barmaid had put herself on Anthony, and he had told her he was married, and he went and pushed her toward James. So Rosalind and Anthony go back and forth with each other until finally Rosalind tells Anthony that she wants a child. He obliges, though it doesn't settle their anger towards each other. The next day, Rosalind decides to believe that Anthony didn't cheat on her, so she decides to go to the bank to put money in Anthony's account to help pay for what she spent when she was angry with him. She gets abducted and taken to her cousin, and she sees that he had gotten brutally beaten by Anthony. Anthony kicked the crap out of him and was going to leave. He told the men in a letter that he doesn't want her anymore because she's married, but the men don't know how to read, and they still want to be paid for the job they did. Geordie doesn't have the money to pay the men who kidnapped Rosalind, but Anthony shows up and gets things settled. Rosalind becomes pregnant, and Anthony thinks that Rosalind will want to stop coming to his bed now that she's with child. But she tells him how she loves him and wants to continue their bedroom activities. Rosalind finds a letter on her vanity from James, and he says in the letter that the barmaid was with him and not Anthony. Rosalind apologizes to Anthony, and they have their happily ever after. So, for most of this book, she was, accusing him. If you hear knocking, it's the little boy next door. He hears me, so he likes to be irritating. So for most of the book, Rosalind was believing that he had cheated on her. And so it wasn't until James writing her a letter saying, hey, my brother did not cheat on you. I was with that barmaid. So there were some people who in the reviews had said they thought she was a bitch. And I was like, no, I could say that. I could say that she was a bit of, frustrating. I'll just say that. I'll just say she was a bit frustrating because for most of it, she actually believed that he was continued on with his rakish ways. continued on with his rakish ways. So it took till toward the end for her to read it, even though she was like, she didn't believe that, he had cheated on her. Just different ways that he was acting, where she was like, she ended up convincing herself that, I don't think he cheated on me. But the letter obviously did help, where it's like, so that way she could apologize to him and tell him she's sorry for like accusing him and for just playing these games with him for a while. So, yeah, now I'm on to the next book in the series, Gentle Rogue, which, like I said, this is not the original cover. I'll have to go and put right here the original cover. This here is actually, if I didn't do it before, Virginia Henley, she did a book, was it the Hawk and the Dove or something like that, and that was the original cover. So I don't understand why they went and took the Virginia Henley one and posted it on here. Why not just use the same cover from the original? Weird. So yeah, so this one here is basically on the ship. James Mallory is basically a pirate or former pirate, and so Georgina Anderson boards the Maiden Anne disguised as a cabin boy, and that's the same woman that he ended up like having over his shoulder in the last book, and she ended up getting away from him, and he clearly was like, he was intrigued by her. So like this here, he finds out that she's on the ship, and he's like, oh, okay, she's on the ship, all right, we're gonna see what happens. So I'm curious about this one here. But so far I'd say like the series is better. It is better than her earlier books. Like if you wanted to start out with anything in her books, and you're not sure, I would say the Mallory series is probably the way to go, because with the first book, even though I thought the hero was a bit of a dickhead, I did like the story for the most part. For her, it's like I still enjoyed this, even though she was a bit of a bitch, But I will say, like, I did like her as a bitch over the other guy, who I thought was a dick. So I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I don't normally take a female side over, over a male side. I don't usually do that. It depends on the circumstances for me, especially because I'm like, look, we're all equal, everyone should have equal punishment regardless of your sex, so for me, I felt like he was a bit more of a dickhead than she was as a bitch, but there were people who obviously didn't like her, so yeah, I did enjoy it. I gave it a 4. This one here, we'll see what happens. I will start listening to this one today, but yeah, I don't understand the why they ended up like redoing this cover differently. I did end up finding the original cover of the Johanna Lindsey one, the Gentle Rogue one, with like Fabio on it. I did find that one. It cost me about $25, but it's way cheaper than what people would charge on eBay. I found it on Pango Books. And I'm like, okay, that's reasonable. 25, I'll pay 25. If it's 100 or more, fuck that. So, yeah. So yeah, I got that one, because I wanted to get that one. And yeah, I'm glad I found that. I'll just say that. I'm glad I found that one. But yeah, I would say like her earlier books, like the ones that she just started writing. Yeah, those ones, those are problematic for sure. But these ones here are not bad. I mean, you have like, I mean, there was a little bit of like a, you know, consensual non-consent in one of the scenes, like, you know, with the last book here, because she did have like a few drinks in her and, you know, they had sex with each other. So I'm like, it's kind of like consensual non-consent to me, because she was still like, you know, her brain was still functioning, you know, she was obviously tipsy, but her brain was still functioning when she had sex with him. So to me, I'm like, it's kind of questionable, you know, kind of questionable. So I'm curious about this one here, if this one's going to be any good or not. I like James. He is a bit, he's a bit rough around the edges, and he has a son. He has obviously has like a bastard child. That's, I'm assuming. I don't think he was married to any women. If he was, like, the woman died or he got divorced. But I'm thinking the child's like a biblo, you know? And so we'll see what happens. But yeah, I will go and update later when I get finished with this one here and see how I like it. And yeah, I will continue on with the series. If anybody wants me to do more vlogs of the Johanna Mallory series, let me know. Like I said, let me know in the comment section, and I will do more. But yeah, I will update you all later. Okay, this is the last clip for this vlog. If you're here with a fan, I'm sorry, but it is warm in my apartment and I cannot turn that off. So this one here by Johanna Lindsey, Gentle Rogue. For one, that's like, I thought it's kind of weird that they, you know, like I said in another clip, I thought it was weird that they decided to take a Virginia Henley cover and basically change the color of their hair. I went and I looked at the other one, and I'm like, besides like changing the heroine's hair, because the heroine in this one here, her hair color was more of like a blondish, reddish kind of color, and his hair was dark. And so they basically made him, because his character in here, James, he's like blonde haired and like green eyed, I think. I think he's got green eyes and blonde hair, which I think it's kind of a rare. I don't think I've seen too many people with blonde hair and green eyes. I've seen blonde hair and blue eyes, but I don't know how many people I know that have blonde hair and green eyes. The green eyes is definitely more of a rarity. And with her, you know, like I said, I don't understand why they decided to do that. And then they took out like the dove that was here. Weird. I don't understand why they went and recovered it and all that stuff. I'm like, why don't you just use the original cover? I don't know. It made no sense to me. So we got the characters of James Mallory. He's 36, and Georgie Anderson. She's 22. He has a 17-year-old son. So when you go and you know, do math, it's like, oh my God, he had gotten a chick pregnant when he was like 19, you know? So like, damn, dude. So Georgie is American in England looking for her fiance. She is accompanied by her companion and family friend, Ian McDonald. She calls him Mac. She finally meets up with her fiance, and he doesn't even recognize her. And she sees that he has since gotten married and has a 5-year-old son. Disappointed and angry, she wants to head back home to Connecticut, which I thought was funny because I'm like, I grew up in Connecticut. But all the ships heading out aren't going to America. So her and Mac board the Maiden Anne, and she needs to be dressed as a cabin boy. Mac pretends that Georgie is his little brother. She says like, oh, she's 12, and it's like kind of weird. You know, that you're 22 and you're claiming to be a 12-year-old boy. Meanwhile, Captain James Mallory is told about the newcomers and knows exactly who the little scamp is. And he knows for sure that she's not a boy. So he has her sleep in his room so George can assist the captain. She has to help the captain shave and also help with the captain's bath and all that stuff. And I'm like, dude, I know what you're doing. It's still kind of creepy though. I'm just saying, that's still kind of creepy. So Georgie starts to feel things about the captain, things she doesn't understand, things like desiring a man. You know, she kept saying like her stomach hurt, and I'm like, I don't think I've ever gotten where I'm like, I like a person and my stomach hurts. I mean, I could say like you could feel like butterflies in your stomach or bubbles in your stomach, that type of thing. You know, when you're looking at somebody, you could feel like you have bubbles in your stomach, you know, or you feel like, you know, what they say, butterflies, but you're feeling like sick to your stomach. I don't know about that. You know, like, if somebody disgusts me, it's because I don't like them, not because I'm like, I like them. I don't know. That was kind of weird, where she's like, I feel sick all the time. And I'm like, yeah, that's not what that is. That's not what love is. That's weird. You know, I thought it was weird. Very strange. So, soon her and James start a sexual relationship. And so I said they end up getting to Jamaica. And just when James is talking to his shipmate Connie about having Georgie for his mistress, when he sees her on an American ship with a man, and it ends up being her one brother, they leave and James decides to follow the other ship to get to Georgie. So he goes all the way to America to follow her. Georgie makes it home 6 weeks later, and she has come to realize that she is pregnant with James's baby. She deals with her overprotective brothers, but doesn't want to tell them that she's increasing. And I just didn't like her brothers. I thought they were very, like, I hate to use this term, but, you know, like misogynistic, you know, pig-headed. They were very, like, I'd say overbearing with her, even though her character did annoy me. But I felt like, you know, they were very overbearing. And, you know, especially because she was the only girl. And they were, like, you know, basically, like, threatening to, like, hit her. And I'm just like, I don't like that, you know, like, I don't like that, you know. So, James shows up to Georgie's home and basically starts a fight with all of her brothers. I was like, dude, you could have, like, went a whole different way with this, you know. So they threaten to get him arrested, and he ends up marrying Georgie, you know, because they're like, well, if you were with our sister intimately, you need to marry her, you know. And so he ends up marrying her. They lock him up, and then Georgie convinces her two brothers to let James's crew go. So they let James go, and he kidnaps her and takes her off on his ship. They argue the whole week, and she yells out that she's pregnant. As James and Georgie make it back to England, and I'm like, damn, how many times? I'm like, he does 6 weeks all the way to America to grab her ass and take her back. Then it's 6 weeks back, and it's like, you know, how much freaking time to pick up this pain in the ass and bring her back, you know? So James and Georgie make it back to England, and now James has to deal with his family not believing that he married her. She sneaks out of the house trying to look for her brothers. She runs into Jeremy, James's son, and another Mallory. It's they have another brother. I think it's Justin or something like that. I think it's another J name. And Jason, that's what it was. I think it's Jason. And I think it's Jason's son. So Jason's son's like a teen. He runs into her, and he sees she's attractive, but then he's like, ah, damn, you know, she's like, you know, she's like married to my uncle, you know. So Jeremy takes her back to James's home, and her brothers are there. So both families are arguing with each other, and I'm just like, all this for her. And I'm just like, really? And so her family takes her on their ship, and James comes along to get her. He tells her that he loves her, and she loves him back. And I was like, you know, cue the music. So this book was okay. I will say I didn't feel the love between the characters, and I did find Georgie to be annoying. I also felt like James was too mature for her. Also, her brothers are pig-headed. So yeah, for me, I'm like, I don't know. know. I mean, this wasn't a winner for me. You know, it wasn't a winner chicken dinner. You know, it wasn't really. It was kind of like, eh. I mean, most of the time I found Georgie annoying and frustrating, and the fact that, you know, her brothers pretty much kept her like ignorant, you know, of like love and different things like that. And it's like, you guys are her brothers. Wouldn't you want to like protect her by saying, you know, this is this, that is that. Yeah, guy comes along and he's doing this or doing that. Wouldn't you want to protect her? It seemed kind of dumb to me, you know, that they went and protected her so much that they made her ignorant of a lot of things, you know, and oh, she was on the ship all the time, so she knew all this stuff, you know, and I kind of like, eh. And I'd say like the narrator, this is the narrator's fault here for doing the voices the way they did. They did Georgie's voice, and I swear, I'm like, the person who did her voice, it made her sound like babyish, you know? And kind of remind me a bit of like Judy Garland. You know, Judy Garland very much like was treated like shit in the Hollywood industry. Her mother was a fucking scumbag. And so Judy had to like grow up in that shitty ass industry, and, you know, basically like being taken advantage of and all that stuff, and put into different things that she shouldn't have been put into, like her doing blackface. You know, that was something that like her mother and all these other people like pushed her into doing a movie like that. So, you know, and it's like, you know, and it's in the 30s too, so I mean, it's a completely different time, you know, we're talking about here. But, you know, just kind of remind me of like, the voiceover kind of remind me a bit of like Judy Garland. And so it's like she very much had like a kid, almost like this kid voice. And so I thought it was kind of weird the way the narrator did that. And then the way they did James is like, he had this kind of remind me of like an old man voice, you know? And it's like, so when you kind of like consider these characters, and it's like, well, he's 36, he's almost 40. She's beginner 20, so you're talking like it's an almost 20-year age gap, and he's having sex with her, and I'm just like, ugh. I'm not into like the old creepy dudes, and like I said, he's only 36, so he's not like old, but I'm just not into the old creepy dudes who are having sex with these 22-year-olds who are like way immature, you know. I just don't really dig that, so I wasn't really a big fan of it. I will say, like, there was no like, obviously there was no taking advantage of kind of thing, but I do feel like, you know, he played like too many games with her, like tricked her too many times, and I just didn't really dig that, you know. He was obviously taking advantage in a way because he knew she was a female, and so he was like doing these things to like, you know, get her to kind of get in the mood and all that stuff. And I'm like, dude, yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of James. You know, he is funny with different stuff, but I will just say for his own story, wasn't a huge fan. And yeah, like I said, the narrator pretty much kind of like made it sound like he was almost like an old man, you know, like with this kind of like gruff type of voice, you know, where she was all like, you know, oh yeah, you know, and then he's all, you know, kind of thing. And so for me, I'm kind of like, you know, it doesn't like fit. So yeah, it was kind of more of a 3.5 type of thing. But yeah, excuse me. I definitely want to keep reading, you know, the series, you know. Like I said, definitely better than her earlier works. Her earlier works are way problematic. So I would say, like, you know, if you wanted to delve into Johanna Lindsey, definitely not start with her earlier works because they are the problematic, yes. So yeah, definitely not those. And I would say you definitely have to pick and choose which ones, because some of them are not very great. I would say I would probably start with her, like the last books she was doing before she passed away. You know, probably start with those ones. Those probably would be the most like easier ones to get through. I would say probably would be those, because they are like more of her latest ones that she did, because I think she died in like, I want to say like 2019. I think she might have died in 2019 or 2018, around there. I know like she had died of like cancer or something like that. So, but yeah, I would go with like something like that. And then maybe work your way back a little bit. Maybe like do like some, maybe some backlist stuff. But there comes a point where I would say definitely not before like, definitely not 70s. I would say maybe like mid 1980s books you might want to check out. But I'd say if like you're young, you probably would not like Johanna Lindsey. Like if you're in your 20s, you're probably more into like the modern stuff. So I'd say you probably would not like Johanna Lindsey. So yeah. But I'd say the next book I do want to read. Ugh, I don't know why I keep yawning. But I definitely want to check out the 4th book in the series. What was it called again? Something to do with magic. Magic something. The Magic of You. That's what it is. The Magic of You, which I will check out. Then they have Say You Love Me, The Present. I think The Present might be more of a Christmas one, I think. But yeah, I'll keep going. But yeah, if anybody wants me to do another vlog of Johanna Lindsey, like to continue on with this Mallory series, let me know down below. I'll do another vlog for this if you want. Otherwise, if nobody's interested, and I could just move on to something else, some other books or whatever it is. There's other books from this other author that I was going to do a vlog for, because those are on audio and I can get through those ones fairly quick. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this here. I think she's kind of like more like a hit and miss kind of thing, where some books you might like by her and then other books like not so much, so I think you could probably have some favorites here of like one that really kind of hits for you, and then there's some other ones that maybe don't. I know like she was an author where she did like to experiment with different stuff, like she did that one series where it was like out in space or something like that. It was more of like a sci-fi series, kind of thing. And so I know she tended to like, experiment with different stuff. So see what worked, what didn't work. So I'll give her that. I will give her that. But yeah, I see like some of these books are definitely more of like the sign of the times, like whatever was like popular during that time. That's what, I think she tried to do, like, there's different terms that people use now, where they'll be like, oh, this term is super popular, so they'll say this, and then maybe like 20 years down the line, people are like, why did everybody use the same fucking term, It's like when you get into something that's like trending, and then it's not trending anymore, and then people are like, what the fuck was this, So yeah, sometimes trending is not always great. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this here. Like I said, if you want me to continue on with the Mallory, it's the Mallory Anderson series, because she's an Anderson. So now she's a Mallory because he married her. But if you want me to continue on with the Mallory Anderson series, let me know down below. I'll go and make, do another vlog and go from there. But yeah, that's it for this video. If you if there aren't like any other like historical authors that you want me to read from, like if there's something I do have, you know, let me know down below, and I could do more vlogs like this, you know, of like more historical authors and stuff like that. There might be some that I say no to because some historical authors I don't care for. But yeah, if there's anything that maybe I personally have, I can let you know whether or not I could, you know, I could do that. But yeah, if anybody wants to see me do like another historical romance vlog of like, you know, an author that they haven't heard from me, you know, talk about yet, let me know down below. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video here. Have yourselves a good day. Take care of yourselves. Be kind to each other. And I will see you all on the next video. All right. Bye.